And for so long, I've been wondering, where is home? Or what is home? Is home a physical place? Is home a what, a who, a when, a why, a where? My honest opinion about Dubai. Now, you would know that I've already spoken in 16 countries on every continent in the world, and I've been doing so for over a decade. But what was interesting about Dubai is that, truthfully, I was so excited to go there. You know, I love connecting with people. People talk about it like this hotspot of founders and creators. And obviously, as the connector of grace-led leaders, the funnest tribe of founders and creators in the world, you'd think I'd just be frothing and Dubai would be my go-to city, isn't it? But if I can be real with you, I didn't feel like I belonged. And I wonder if you've ever had that feeling too. Maybe it's in a place, maybe it's a community, maybe it's a career, maybe it's a family, a relationship even. Have you ever felt like you didn't belong? Yesterday, I was talking to people back in Australia, and I said, hey, you know, I've come to Bali and I went to this cafe where I always felt like home because people would know my name. There was an energy about it. I'd run into people. And I hadn't been to this cafe for maybe 5 weeks. And then, you know, I was telling my mother on the phone yesterday that I felt so sad because I went into the cafe and it didn't feel like home. I didn't run into people. I used to go here twice a day, and the waitress asked me what my name was. I'm like, what do you mean? We used to see each other twice a day. Ayo. And so this feeling of belonging crumbled. And for so long, I've been wondering, where is home? Or what is home? What do you feel? Is home a physical place? Is home... What is home to you? Or who is home? Or where is home? Is home a what, a who, a when, a why, a where? And so, frankly, I feel like part of myself is entitled to just not vibing with the place. But when I look at it more closely, I feel like Dubai really mirrored and reflected to me my shadows with the concept of belonging and my shadows with the concept of home. For those of you all who are not as aware of shadow work and things like that, a shadow is a subconscious pattern in its nutshell. And so what's fascinating is when I was journaling on what I'd like to share in our conversation today, initially I was going to talk about, you know, what Dubai taught me about global sales and consciousness. And we can still touch on that because I feel it's relevant. But I'd also like to share what I learned about myself because I want to. And something I invite you into is asking yourself, where do you see yourself in me? Maybe it's a past version of yourself, a future, or a present, but where do you see yourself in me? All right. By now, you're aware that something I love is understanding why do people work the way they do? How do they make decisions? You know, what's important to them? How do they communicate differently? Because if you didn't know already, God gave me a spicy treasure chest when I was born called autism, which in a nutshell means that I wasn't born knowing how to socialize like most people do. And so I had to teach myself, but I went from being really socially awkward to, you know, now speaking in 16 countries and doing business on every continent on earth and just loving connection. And so Dubai is a fascinating place because there's so many different flavors of consciousness in the one area. What do I mean by this? So you have the consciousness that comes from the cultural history of being a Middle Eastern country, right? The UAE, United Arab Emirates. You have that like cultural history. Then you have like the consciousness that comes in from people who come to Dubai to get theirs, to make more money, to progress their careers and their endeavors, right? You have that energy. Then you have like the aristocrat, what we call old money energy of people who have kind of been around the region for generations. Like their families are royalty or nobility. I think that's what it's called. You know, they come from generations of wealth. And then you have a whole nother subsect of consciousness of the people who come, and I'll use just a very frank word, they're part of the service. They serve the other members of community. So we're talking about the people who work as taxi drivers, the people who work in the hotels, the people who work at the restaurants. Make sense? And so I think I've just listed four different consciousness groups, all in this one melting pot of Dubai. And I think I'll even add, no, that's those are the main four. And so what's fascinating is whenever I go and I land in a new country or a new culture, I'm always tuning in and calibrating into what is the consciousness of that culture and the subculture. By subculture, I mean that, you know, recently I was in Mumbai for New Year's Eve, and I ended up at a New Year's Eve party with my cousins, and it was a very affluent crowd at this party. We're talking like they went to Ivy League schools and you know, multiple like maid cooks and chefs, and amazing. God bless you. And what's interesting is that that's a subculture, right? I was also in Mumbai years ago. I volunteered at a charity that helped kids who lived in slum areas to advance their education. And so that was a whole different subculture. I'm not saying what is better or worse, but they are brutally different. So when I go to a new place, I try to tune in to what is the culture and the subculture. And typically this goes into three main ingredients. And what you'll find really interesting about this is when you're thinking about expanding your work, whether it's a creative project and you want to touch more hearts, whether it's a more of an entrepreneurship project and you want like more buy-in, maybe it's a social change project, whatever your project, your passion, your art, your expression in this season and the seasons to come is, my friend, when you are looking to scale globally and get people to buy in globally, not just in your pond or the pond next to it, but I mean across every continent on the world, these are very important pillars and spices to become accustomed with. Now, you might be at that stage where you're looking to go cross-continental, or you might be like, hey, I've built a really solid track record of success where I am, and now I'd like to stop preaching to the converted. Do you know what I mean? There's this saying about preaching to the converted. So many people, they're like, I want to change the world. I'm like, that's cool. You're changing a bubble. But what's really interesting is theories of change, which is the study of how do things go into mainstream? How does an echo chamber become mainstream? And some theories have shown 20% of the population. And so if you're really passionate about changing the world, if you're really passionate about helping humanity elevate forward, if you're really passionate about changing the way that the world works, then listen up, because this is really important, right? The fact is that we're having this conversation, you probably already have a track record of success, don't you? You know, people look up to you, they ask you for advice, you're making a difference. Maybe you love the attention, maybe you hate it. It doesn't matter. You have traction. And now your heart is tickling for a new song. Maybe it's the same song, but just amplified to more audience. Maybe it's an evolved song. Maybe it's a completely different song. Maybe you go from playing the flute to playing body percussion. Whatever it is. What we're going to be talking about today, based off my experience in Dubai, is applicable to how do you scale your impact? How do you scale your reach? But most of all, how do you scale your adoption? How do you scale the number of people, the variety of people, the volume of people who adopt your ideas. So, coming back to Dubai, as I mentioned, there were those 4 groups or subsects of consciousness. There were, the consciousness from being a Middle Eastern country. There was like old money, there's new money, and then there's, you could say, the service category of people. I don't like using the word category, but you get what I mean. Okay, so those are the 4 consciousness. And so whenever I'm going to a new culture, as I'm tuning into a single consciousness, you're asking yourself certain questions. The first question that you're asking, as you can ask yourself right now, not only based on the current group of people you serve, but the expanded group of people you are serving as well. Question number 1. How do they discern power? How do they discern power? How do they discern power? What are the boxes that must be checked off in their subconscious to associate power with an idea, with a person, with an organization, with a movement? And what I mean by power is like, hey, this is powerful, I have to try this. This is powerful, let me learn more. This is powerful, how do I share this? How do I do this? Makes sense? That's what I mean by power, okay? And depending on the culture, the subculture, and the flavor of consciousness, the way that they discern whether something is worth their time or not is different. For example, when I'm speaking in certain cultures, I start with a more authoritative voice because that is what they are used to. And as much as I hated it when I found out, if I did not have an authoritative, low voice, then the chances of them taking off their headphones and listening to me was slim. Because this is the thing, right? You may have a song in your heart, but I knew I brought this for a reason, if your audience has their headphones on, you could be talking and it falls on deaf ears. And so question number 1 to ask yourself is, what are the ingredients for your people to take off their headphones? In subcultures, it's actually about that authoritative, direct energy. In other subcultures, they're looking for a softer, more gentler approach. In other subcultures, it's all about the analytics. What's the logic, the reasoning, the return on investment? In other subcultures, it's about being able to justify your pain. Be like, I know you're going through a hard time, and I know that these people are taking our jobs, and I know that all these foreigners come in and they screw up everything, right? And you didn't deserve this. This is not the country that you signed up for, and it's not your fault. Ooh, you've heard that rhetoric before, haven't you? Because what's happening is they're speaking to your subconscious boxes. We have boxes in our head which, when checked off, we pay attention. We give energy to something. We give it our focus. Whatever your stance is on immigration, God bless you. That's not the topic of conversation today. What I'm saying is, you can start to hear this, right? You notice how in politics, in celebrities, in marketing, they might use the frame of get the best insurance because it's the right thing to do. The right thing. You're now linking your product or service to morality or being a good person or ethics. Fascinating. Okay, so this audience really cares about feeling that they are a good person. Fascinating. And they're doing the right thing. Fascinating. Versus you want to get insurance now so you're able to optimize your wealth planning and be more tax efficient. Do you see how that's a different subconscious box that is ticked? It is one that is more analytical as opposed to morality. For the final example, you want to get this life insurance because you know that you're doing what you need to do to progress your family forward. This is very willful. You're doing what you need to do. You're putting in the hard yards. You're at the break of dawn and the crack of sunset. It's a very willful. Where there's a will, there's a way. Sort of subconscious box. And so when you are speaking to your audience, your current one, when you're expanding, when you are increasing the adoption of your wish for the world, you got to be asking yourself, you need to be asking yourself, what are the subconscious boxes based on the subculture? Because in Dubai, each of these subcultures have different boxes. Now, we all have all the boxes within us. It's just about which ones are in which order of priority. Which one is more important? I have to be seen as being a righteous person, or I have to be seen as an intelligent, efficient person? Is it I have to be seen as somebody who puts in the hard work, or I have to be seen as somebody who is in touch with what I truly feel? Now you might be thinking, hey, this is great, but can't we have all of it? And you can. It's just interesting how in cultures we have a hierarchy. Even the concept of not having a hierarchy creates a hierarchy because it shows that not having a hierarchy is more important than having a hierarchy. We're getting to semantics now. Let's come back. So question number one, when you're tuning into global scales and scaling across cultures, or even if it's simply just expanding your reach and your message now, is what are the subconscious boxes that make people buy? Buy an idea, buy a concept, buy a product, buy a service, buy an event, buy now. Question number two. This one's really interesting. What are the masculine and feminine dynamics of that subculture? What are the masculine, feminine dynamics of that subculture? In some cultures in the world, women are seen as much more equal in the workforce, much more equal in the home force as well. In subcultures, there's a clear gender roles, and to come outside of it is hard. And then what's interesting is in a place like Dubai, you have all these different dynamics of people who come to one place with all these different notions of what the masculine and feminine dynamic should be. By now, you might be asking, what do I mean by dynamic? What I mean is how they interact, their roles, and who they are. This is beyond whether you're a man, a woman, or anything in between. This is about the energies. And it links to the first question as well, because, is softness a weakness? Or is softness true power? And so for me, I just felt quite shifty. I felt like when I was in these 4 different categories of consciousness in Dubai, I kept shifting. And don't get me wrong, this made me really agile. I was able to make friends with the waiter and then make friends with somebody who was in Dubai to sell weapons. It was crazy. Okay, I can't say I made friends with them, but I was able to tune into their world and understand how they were able. We didn't have a conversation. I overheard. I was able to, somebody from old money, have a conversation with them, And so it increased my agility, but I also felt like I kept shifting. And so this actually makes me challenged right now. Why do I feel like home is a static state? Why do I feel that home is a static state? Maybe it's because I had this concept that, when I return to my family home, where my parents live, it's like, oh, I'm home. There's this stability, there's this security. And I was having a conversation last night, and he was saying, everything happens. Full stop. Not everything happens for a reason or everything happens in divine time, but just everything happens. And so isn't it fascinating that as I'm having this conversation, I'm learning about myself that being home, I used to associate to a static, certain, secure stability. And so when I'm entering a new culture, whether it's to speak, do business, or simply just, it's all an adventure, right? It's all a game. What's really interesting is I used to be like, there's one set of cultural ingredients here, but in Dubai, it's continuously shifting, it's continuously changing, because 1 minute I'd be like at this rooftop hotel where it was like looking at the Burj Khalifa and total luxury, and people are doing like arms deals. And then on the other end, I'm like literally smack bang in the middle of where like all the waiters and all the drivers live, and it's insane, right? There was this extremes. And so what I'm noticing about myself now is that where can I allow more fluidity to feel more home? That's so pretty. Where can I allow more fluidity to feel more home? Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I feel like standing. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Ooh, da 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 da. Alrighty. So yeah, where can I be more fluid in my feeling of home? Something like that, right? So this is really cool because in Dubai, it really challenged me to be able to tap into that feeling of home wherever I went, okay? So the first ingredient is really the subconscious buying boxes. And now the second ingredient, I'm so excited. This is actually not a wall. Whoa, trippy. It's a Pink Floyd song, right? And it's a pink and it's a wall. Haha. Anyways, so what I was going to say is my second ingredient, all right, is about the masculine-feminine dynamics. Where is the role of femininity? Where is the role of masculinity? Do you have to be like this stoic person to like be always like this? Or do they want this intensity? Or is it about being soft and gentle? Or is it about being mysterious and seductive? Now, every culture has all of those things, but what is the current relationship between that culture and that expression of masculinity or expression of femininity? Because when you're doing business in a place, when you're speaking to people, when you can enter the song that they are already listening to, like a DJ, right? They fade out one song, fade in the next one. Have you ever been to a party or just heard a DJ where the fading was weird and it was abrupt change and you're just about to get the chorus and then it changes? Yes, there's a time and place for like sudden change, but it has to be executed very intentionally so that it's part of the rasa, the flow, isn't it? Otherwise it just feels jarring, people are put off and they want to go listen somewhere else. So reflection number 1 is what are the subconscious buying boxes? Reflection number 2 is what is the masculine feminine dynamics? And then question number 3, my friend, is what are the approaches? What are the approach contexts? What are the approach contexts? So let me give you an example, right? In different cultures, you have different approach norms. Approach norms when it comes to dating, approach norms when it comes to business, approach norms when it comes to negotiation. So I'll give you an example, right? I was at a place called Soho House in Mumbai. Now, Soho House, if you don't know, is like this, I think it's in New York, London, Mumbai, kind of these capital cities, whatever that means. But it's in these cities and it's like a members club where people go. I remember having a conversation with somebody by the poolside. And what's fascinating is there apparently is like a rule policy whereby you're not allowed to approach people you don't know. You can only meet them at events. And I was like, not my vibe. So, of course, I go poolside and I started a conversation with somebody. And it's really interesting. He talks about the importance of vibe checking. Really slowly getting to know somebody and discerning whether you can trust them, because they might be fabulous on paper, but in reality, it's not the right fit. And so some cultures, there's a slow vibe check, right? In other cultures, it's a lot more direct. You just walk up to somebody, you say hello, and then you get to business, whatever that means. You get to the deal, I should say. And so knowing what the different approach norms are is really important. Let me give you an example. So I was in Dubai and I saw this gorgeous woman. I was like, oh my habibi. And so what I had learned already in Dubai is that I'm the sort of guy who I just like to, if I see something I find them interesting, I want to go up and say hi. Make sense? I remember, in fact, yeah, I've always had that within me. I felt nervous and powerless at times and scared, but the intention to want to connect has been something that's been there for us since birth, really. To connect, have fun, and yeah. Oh, that's so precious. So beautiful. So imagine you're with me and you see this gorgeous woman, and we're like by the water. It's like this shopping district, but it's by the water. It's almost like the Italian, what's it called? Florence, right? Is that the place? I think it's where the waterways are. Maybe it's Milan. I think it's Milan. Hey, welcome to Milan. Venice, right. So it's very Venice feels. And I see this gorgeous woman. And I already know by now, I'm like, okay, if you want to connect with somebody, typically out, like, it's evening time. It's not a club. It's a public place. So basically, she's sitting somewhere. I go and sit near her. And we're feeling each other out. Not talking, but you can feel each other's auras, right? And then her father comes. Her father slowly sits near me and strikes up a conversation. And her father is asking me questions, and I know that he's sussing me out. He's like feeling me out. It's freaking wild. Now, mind you, I've never talked to this woman before. Okay, I have a conversation with her father before I have a conversation with her. And then the woman is called by her family to like have dinner with them, and the father's still talking to me. I'm like, whoa, man, what's happening here? Anyways, we have a fabulous conversation about like politics and culture and fake news and reincarnation and all these things. And then the lovely lady comes back and she unspokenly expresses her interest of me to her father, which is just so adorable. I start to blush, even though I'm proud, and I feel so giddy and so lovely. But isn't it fascinating, right? Can you see how the approach to approach is very different in that context? It was her father was involved, right? How does this then tie back to the previous point of the masculine feminine dynamics? And how does this tie back to the first point of the subconscious power boxes? The subconscious power boxes for buying. Fascinating, right? And so the way that you approach a conversation, is it direct and straight to the transaction, or is there more of a vibe check, or where is the line? And then, how do you have your own boundaries? How do you resolve conflict? And how do you stay true to who you are and what you're here to be? And all these things were just amplified times at least 4x in Dubai, because they were the 4 subsects of culture, right? And so now I'm thinking, hey, I'm not the same man I was when I went back. What would it be like to be back in Dubai again? My invitation is you reflect on these 3 questions as we wrap up today's conversation. Number 1, when do you feel most home? Number 2, who are you? And number 3, where can you apply something we've talked about today to deepen the adoption of your ideas in the world? That's all I have to say. Number 1, where is home? When do you feel most home? Number 2, who are you really? And number 3, where can you apply one thing you learned from today to deepen the adoption of your ideas in the world? I'm Nav. This is Grace-led Leaders. Like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, if you could share this with somebody who would find it really like a tickling for their mind, their soul, and their heart, that would mean the world to me. God bless you. Mwah. Love you.